Is another WWE star unhappy with creative? We'll talk about it. Plus, an update on an ex-WWE star making an in-ring return. And a major AEW star is teasing retirement. It's all in the wrestling news right now. So in recent weeks and months, we've talked about Mustafa Ali being unhappy with some creative direction. Drew McIntyre currently in a long-running issue with WWE, which is mixed to do with money and creative. Right. Another name possibly to add to that list of the creatively dissatisfied is NXT's Gigi Dolan. She lost to Tiffany Stratton on last night's NXT and put out an Instagram story with a black background that simply said, "I miss being PK," and then that emoji of like
teary one.
The teary emoji holding back tears.
Yeah. Now that's odd, isn't it? Because you could argue that it's like in character saying I need to refine my winning self or whatever. But you could also say that this is possibly a kind of a slightly veiled airing of grievances creatively as well.
Because PK, of course, meaning penalty kick.
Yes.
And she misses football.
I was taken off penalty duties and I want to be back on them in the in-house NXT football competition.
There you go. We've solved it. It's either that or Priscilla Kelly.
Or Priscilla Kelly, her indie name.
Her indie name. Now, her persona on the indie circuit was very different to the one that we see on NXT. There's been several very controversial spots that Priscilla Kelly's been in the centre of. Remember when she vommed on Eli Everfly? Oh. Do you remember the used tampon gate?
I remember that one, yeah.
I like the hand gesture you did for that.
I was trying to cut you off, but you just went through. That's fair enough.
But that's it. That's what happened. She removed a used tampon and used it
I hope it was
as
worked.
a weapon.
I hope it was worked used, that's all. But
yeah, rather than shoot
But
used.
it caused a quite hilarious uproar.
It's a hilarious uproar. Even Jim Ross was upset with it.
Was he upset?
There was he did. Bless him.
No, I thought fair play to her. But obviously, that's all been toned down on NXT.
Yeah, you kind of get like a nod and a wink to what Priscilla Kelly was, but nothing really more. So maybe like, Gigi Dolan currently in this sort of weird between places role, because we had quite literally a rockers split between Toxic Attraction. And unlike the Rockers split, it sort of fizzled. It's kind of ongoing, but it's not really gone anywhere at the same time.
Yeah, I believe that JC Jane suffered quite an ill-timed injury immediately after then, or like in the big match they then had. And it's kind of, I think they want to keep it going, but they might not have been able to quite go through with the plans as they wanted them to be. I think that this is totally speculation, but I think that if this is indeed an issue she has with creative, saying I miss being my old self, I'm not happy with how this is going, I think it could be because her character at the moment is very much just sort of defined by this feud and hasn't been given. It's not a very well-rounded character, Gigi Dolan. She used to be in Toxic Attraction where she was Mandy Rose's lackey, then she fell out with JC, and now she's the one feuding with JC and is kind of being this kind of figure going, oh no, I was made fun of and I've had a hard upbringing and I'm standing up for people like my younger brother.
You walked out on your family and your mum was an alcoholic.
And maybe she's not feeling that. Maybe she wants to be a badass again. I don't know.
Maybe. And you made a really good point when we talked earlier in the first news video, because obviously you've got JC Jen on one side of the women's tournament and Dolan on the other side. And you would have thought, well, maybe this will lead to them having a clash in the tournament.
It looked like they were going to maybe meet up in the second round, yeah.
But it didn't. So why not have just had it so they had an opening round match instead?
Maybe they are teasing us.
Maybe they are.
Maybe there's still, to be fair, JC Jane still has to have her first round match. Maybe Gigi will get involved there and stuff will progress. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, it is the latest, possibly, if that was the meaning of her Instagram story, in a series of potential creative disputes in WWE.
I miss being PK, meaning Priscilla Kelly, but what is in a name? Well, Nigel McGinnis thinks there's a lot in a name, as he has trademarked his ring name for entertainment purposes and merchandise purposes, and he does so just a few days after putting out a message that hinted at an in-ring return at Wembley.
I mean, could you possibly imagine if Nigel McGinnis were to do that? And
yes.
Yes, you could.
I could imagine.
Whoa.
And what a day it would be.
It would be unbelievable, because Nigel McGinnis is one of those people who, basically through bad luck, I suppose, and bad timing, never got the WWE run that he deserved, despite being and I don't think I'm understating this. I don't think I'm overstating this. Despite being an indie legend, an indie legend,
he truly is.
In Ring of Honor, then in TNA, and in many other promotions as well. An indie legend.
Legend. Yes. Well over a decade since the legend last competed. He's recently made a comeback following his WWE release. We saw him commentating for Supercard of Honor. It was lovely to hear his voice on commentary duty again. I think he's a fantastic commentator.
He's unbelievable, yeah. Really
he adds so much gravitas to an event and to a moment in a match.
Yeah.
I think he's brilliant.
And he's got I've been there, I understand all these technical things going on, but also he's not dry. He can have a laugh. He can also inject emotion. He's a real all-rounder on commentary.
All-rounder.
He's a real Tom Campbell on commentary.
He is, isn't he? Bless him. Hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I'm not. Progress also have been using Nigel lately as a way of announcing the Super Strong Style 16 competitors. And I really like that. Yes. That lovely shot of Nigel McGinnis next to a brick wall, like he's about to start an episode of Country File, going through all the competitors that are going to be in Super Strong Style 16.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that maybe this all leads to number 16, and he just rips his top off.
Oh my
it's gonna
god!
Be me!
Oh my god! Can you imagine it? Oh my god!
It's what we want to happen.
It is, maybe it would. We'd have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly just the prospect of him being involved in some way at All In makes me very excited, because it's the biggest British wrestling show since probably SummerSlam '92.
Oh,
in terms of scale.
In terms of scale,
it's the biggest in SummerSlam '92, and he is a real unsung. He's a real hero of British wrestling, and I think it would be nice for him to be involved.
Just figure if he doesn't have a match, there could be a fun moment where you have maybe like the Gun Club do a thing where they run down the UK, have their match, and then they carry on running down the UK, and then Nigel just stands up from the commentary section, just gets in the ring and just clobbers them. Big pop.
It could even just
Savio Vega pop for Nigel McGinnis.
The Savio Vega pop.
Savio Vega pop, as it's now known.
No, that would be lovely. I hope he's involved in some way.
Trinity will be involved in some way in Impact Wrestling for quite some time, won't she?
Right, this came out of nowhere, really. Well, at least maybe it's because I've had a week off. But I came back and suddenly Trinity's back as well. And
so they announced there was going to be a surprise at their show in Chicago, as we were here for.
Yeah.
And we were going, CM Punk.
Right.
And he was there anyway. He was backstage playing Uno.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah.
But then it kind of got announced that it got leaked that it was going to be Trinity, and she's just been all over Impact ever since.
So I was going to say, when I first saw this news, I thought, it'll be like a one-shot type of thing, but quite the opposite, Tom, because she's shared her schedule on social media yesterday, revealing that not only will she be part of Impact TV on quite a regular basis, but it's going to go through to Slammiversary and beyond.
Because her schedule shows Slammiversary, but then it shows Slammiversary Fallout as the day after, which says that, it's even after that, she's going to be popping up on TV after Slammiversary.
She's also listed a couple of other big shows as well, Under Siege and Against All Odds too.
Yeah.
She's all over the place.
She's going to be there throughout the summer of Impact Wrestling. And the summer in Impact is always the best time, because Slammiversary, they do tend to throw a lot at Slammiversary in one way or another. In previous years, it's been, hey, look, all these guys that got released. Who's turning up? And then I think it was the year before where they said it was a tribute to TNA and the history there. And some legends of TNA turn up. AJ Styles did a video for them. It was great. Really always love Slammiversary season.
That's a good point, actually. I've never really thought about that. But yes, it probably, because Bound for Glory is the other big time. But I do think I prefer just on the whole Slammiversary.
I think I do. Maybe if AJ did the thing of Bound for Glory, apologies, I might have got that wrong. But I'm fairly sure.
I agree with your overall point. Yeah. Because the summer is fun.
Summer is fun.
And we can all agree.
Fun till your daddy takes your T-Bird away. Talking of Impact Wrestling, tonight, brand new Desert Island Graps. I'm chatting to Pinder Gija, who has been slowly working his way through the world of Impact Wrestling. Had a match against Brian Myers where he broke his nose midway through, and I think it changed the course of his career in a good way. He's such a lovely guy. Like he made his way over from India to live in Canada and found his feet all on his own during the pandemic, working with Impact, training with Scott D'Amore. You're going to fall in love with him when you hear him later. He's on the podcast feed, and you can watch it if you're a Patreon as well.
Did you ask him about breaking his nose in the middle of the match?
Oh, we had a whole long conversation about breaking his nose, and I won't reveal too much, but what a hero he is, the way that he got through that, and the way he dealt with it once the penny had dropped that something had gone wrong. The way he dealt with it, I went, yeah, I like that. It's good, that. But that'll be on the podcast feed a little later on today and on the Patreon. Let's end with a bit of Dynamite talk. Massive match tonight featuring Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley inside a steel cage. And for Kenny, it could be one of the very few matches left, maybe.
Right. He was speaking to Sports Illustrated, really, and alluded to his career being, I guess, further towards the end than it is the beginning, saying time is running thin on the Kenny Omega clock. I can guarantee anyone that sees me perform live that there is a reason for that performance, and I work to make everyone special. So he's been more selective now, I guess, or more specific about what his remaining matches are. I wanted this one to be unique and very fun for people who tune in and people who are there live. And I know how competitive John is, so this will be a grueling, physically demanding, and violent cage match.
Now, in that very same interview, Kenny Omega cited Jon Moxley as the MVP of AEW, which presumably means he's going to walk out in front of a big inflatable tunnel.
You hear the clock ticking. Yeah. Balling. They're really similar, aren't they?
Exactly the same.
But no, I think he's probably right. Over the course of AEW's whole existence and lockdown and having to be the guy called upon when someone else walks out and we need John. I think he probably is the MVP, but there's various different candidates. Jon Moxley was also recently doing an interview with Sports Illustrated, and he said sort of similarly kind words, but hyping himself up too, saying that the feud between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite is the hottest thing in wrestling right now, in his opinion.
Wow. Well, and it gets hotter tonight, and it looks as if Omega is winding down the clock. How do you see Kenny wrapping up his career?
I really don't know, because he's had such a storied one now and so many great feuds and so many great moments that he could kind of choose multiple different ways to go. Just have another one with Okada. Go on, Kenny.
Just for old time's sake, you and Okada one more time, run it back.
It's interesting that he's deliberately kept that vague, hasn't he? He's just said time's running thin on the Kenny Omega clock. We know that he's wrestled a high impact style over the years, a really grueling style as well. So he might not have the longevity, or he might not want to have the longevity of certain other wrestlers. But it's interesting that he's consciously saying that, saying, I'm going to pick and choose what I do.
He's very aware of how banged up and broken he is, but he's still beloved. He's like Edward from Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yes, he is. Exactly.
He's the Edward of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Like
the older engine. His pipes don't work as well, but like we love him all the same.
Yes,
and he does a great 450.
And he does a great
Edward does, not Kenny.
Oh, Edward does a 450.
Edward does a great 450 splash.
Off the hill.
There's a great episode of Thomas the Tank Engine where he does a 450 off the top of the biggest hill on the island of Soto onto James. And
James is so selfish. He's always just getting himself over.
he really is.
James.
And do you know what? He got his comeuppance when Percy ran in with that Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yeah. Percy's like the Daniel Bryan. He's the underdog.
That's a great episode of Thomas the Tank Engine.
What's happened here?
That we just made up. For the latest Thomas the Tank Engine news, check out cultaholic.com. And some wrestling news if we get bored as well. Stay safe. Splendid engine.
Bloody Diesel, what a heel. The troublesome truck's a spot monkey.
Keep that bit in. Keep that bit in.